Hello, Internet. Today, we're going to nerd out on video games. So, Adam and I will tell you our top 7 video games we've played throughout our lifetime of gaming. Um, Most of the list that I kind of skimmed through for both of ours, most of it's like single player games. But we will shoehorn in a few multiplayer games that kind of those games where you hang out with your boys and then just have a good time. So those are the games that we'll mention a little bit here and there. So I'm Gabe. This is my co-host Adam, where we have different point of views on topics and we come into understanding on this episode of Somewhere in Between. Okay, so this week's
Man,
episode.
This lip balm tastes terrible.
This week's
Come on,
episode is all about our top 7 video games we played throughout our whole lifetimes. I know, and I was just we were like before we went live, I just skimmed through Adam's list, and he has like a bigger list than I did, but there's some very very good games that are like I think there's a lot of more honorable mentions than there are top 7 like our top 7 game list. But
it's difficult to narrow it down to like 7 top games, and there's just so many good games.
yeah. So I guess before we go in our list, I guess we'll say well I'll ask you is like how did we get into video games, and I guess that's where the journey starts. So like I'll start off with I think I was in daycare and I remember seeing an NES and remember playing the Super Mario game on the NES, and that was like kind of like my first introduction to games. And then fast forward years later, the the Nintendo 64 came out. Then the Mario 64 was the first purchase game that I remember my dad bought me, and after that it's just took off from there. Just playing, just now going from N64 to PS2, then Xbox and Xbox One, and now I think we're in the 8th or 7th generation of consoles. Now we're going into PS5 and Xbox Series X, so it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean my start with it definitely was the NES and the SNES. The 2 games I remember the most are obviously Super Mario, first one, and then Duck Hunt, of course.
Oh my god, Duck
crazy.
Hunt! Oh my god.
So like if I look back and my first times playing any sort of console video games or anything like that, it was either Duck Hunt or Super Mario Brothers. And then you go from that to the N64, and that's when did this N64 come out? 98, I think, something like that. 98.
I want to say 90. No, I think it was like 96, 96, 97.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I remember when that came out. I remember when that dropped, and it was like Mario N64, Mario Kart, GoldenEye, those kind of games. And we'll get into all that stuff. But that leap was huge. And then I remember I was a GameCube guy. I know you had PlayStation 2, but the leap from N64 to GameCube was huge too. I don't think a lot of people give credit to the GameCube. I think it's one of the better consoles that have ever come out. Especially when you look at the lineup of games released on the GameCube compared to a lot of consoles that released today. I mean, the GameCube lineup for released games is better than the Xbox Series X.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is. There's way more games, and they're probably for its time way better quality. So.
And those were just like starter of like new IPs, and now they've grown an audience over the years. Especially, I think wasn't Animal Crossing like that was that on there on the GameCube?
On the GameCube, yeah. I think the original Animal Crossing was on the GameCube. Yep. Yeah. So I went from that. I went from GameCube. I went from NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Wii.
Yeah. So you had the Nintendo consoles because
then I went PS3, and then I went Xbox One, and then Xbox One S.
Yeah.
And that's been my history with consoles.
Yeah, because I remember I didn't own the Wii, so I remember you've always had you always had the Nintendo consoles. I remember had a GameCube myself, and then after that I would just skip to the Xbox. So yeah, so that's our kind of history. So we've been like avid gamers for a long time. So like it could be about anything, like any game that we're hyped to see, or have you played this game? Like, oh no, we need to check it out. Things like that. So it's been great over the years, and then I guess like now like I think the golden years of gaming was probably during like the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube days. I think those are like the golden ages of like gaming because like
Yeah, I'd agree. That's like right around the time the first person shooter was really,
starting to
really
take
developed.
off.
When Halo came out and I believe Modern Warfare came out in that generation. Yeah, all the good shooters came out in that time. So
Hmm. Yeah, those were the days where like now like can't believe it, like 10 years later, now you got a whole new generation like, oh my god, I love the new like Advanced Warfare, and we're old school, we're like, this ain't Call of Duty.
yeah, it's nothing like, especially some of the last iterations of Call of Duty. I mean, that's a whole other topic, but I mean, some of them are not even Call of Duty games. It's not anything like I'm used to.
Yeah, now you got all these like, it used to be just being like on the ground and just running around the map. Then never thought I'd see like Call of Duty like in the future, like with we're all running and jetpacks. I'm like, where have we gone? How did we get here? Well, yeah, like
Yeah,
you
I
said,
get,
that's another topic for another day. Um, well, I guess I'll start my list. Oh, just for a disclaimer, like there is no like particular ranking. Like this isn't our like our number one like game of all time. This is just like a list, like that just came
yeah,
from the top of our
we're
head.
not doing it in order. These are just the top 7 games that we like. It's not. This is the best. The first one is not going to be the best one. The last one is not going to be the worst one.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you reasons why, like why they're in my top seven. So I'll first off is the game that started it all was Mario 64 for me. So that's what introduced me to all these amazing video games I've played over the years, and it just made me fell in love with like just video games in general, and especially that kind of leaped me into like when you said Mario Kart, like that's what like brought like the whole family together. I remember like N64, we had split screen. I don't know if people remember split screens, but we did had split screens. We shared like a 20-inch like TV, and those were like the glory days. That was so much fun. Just playing N64. I think that's another reason is too kind of like nostalgia, since like the Mario 3D remake came out on the Switch, and I played a little bit on the Switch, and it's just brought back so much memories. And there was like other things too that I had no idea there was like hidden a star or anything like that. So I was kind of like, wow, after all these years, I never knew like there was a star like there, or something on a level. So it's pretty cool, crazy. Like after all the years, like I thought I think the highest star I got to was maybe 90. Then turns out there was like 30 more that I missed. I was like, shit. So yeah, so Mario 64 is like is the that's why I put it on my list, is because that's what brought me into the world of gaming.
all right, my first one that I had, and like I said, this is not like my top game or anything, but by far probably one of the most influential games of like my childhood was Command and Conquer Tiberian Sun. It's the second Command and Conquer game in the Tiberian universe, which is it's probably number 4 or 5 in the Command and Conquer series, but it's one of the greatest RTSs of all time. Back when it was the first game that EA released, that once they bought Westwood Studios and pumped it out, there are so many things that build upon like the original game, uh, different unit types, different like mapping things that they changed and fixed in the old game, and everything that annoys you in the first game. This builds upon it. It doesn't take away from that. Everything's so much better. This is really, to me, the last good Command and Conquer game. We haven't had a good one since then, and we've had probably 4 of them and 4 expansions. So we probably had 8 other games that have released since then that all EA has released. They've been, in my opinion, pretty trash. This game's great. I mean, you don't have modern RTSs without the Command and Conquer series in general, but this particular iteration was phenomenal. So it's great.
Yeah. Um, and then another, now going down my list. I put all these games like into one. Just an FYI. So my other Number 2 on the list is the BioShock series. I think that was like one of the first few games. I want to say that was one of the few games that came on launch when the new systems dropped for the Xbox 360 and PS3. I want to say, or was it PS2? But I remember playing. Yeah, it was 360. Yeah, 360. Yeah, that's what it was. I remember it's like a launch title for it. But anyway, Bioshock series. First one, like that was like probably one of the greatest like story driven games because I just like there was like a huge like another utopia underwater, and it's just like especially seeing like the holotapes, you're kind of like trying to figure out like okay what the hell happened here, things like that, and then trying to understand like the main character of his plane crashed and all this other stuff that happened, and then you know going on into the game and seeing like big daddies, and that was kind of crazy too, just trying to fight one and things like that. And there's like and then the plot twist that you're like oh my god, it all makes sense of why so and so been saying this for the entire game. It was so good. And like seeing like using your ectoplasm or the what is it, the magic stuff, you just juice up your wrist. I can't think of what they're called. um was it plasma? I'll call them plasma. I can't think of what
Yeah, I
they're
can't remember what it was
I
called.
can't think of it either. But they were like having like going from magic to the gun combat, things like that. Kind of like it. It was kind of more of like RPG kind of thing, but not like too crazy. But like, but it was heavily. Oh, I loved it because it was like story based driven. Like that's what kept me like wanting to like keep playing it. And then number two was okay, but they improved the gameplay a lot since you become a big daddy and you're kind of like, well, I'm kind of invincible. Like, what am I afraid of, you know? And then, years later, then Infinite shows up, and then you know, that kind of blew out of the water too. And they had their DLC and everything. Like going from 10 years later, or a few years after Bioshock 2 happened, and then Bioshock kind of uh, warped around that's trying to put Infinite into the first one. So I kind of appreciate that a lot. So that's one of my reasons that Bioshock was. It's like a very good story driven game. If you like story, you just want to just play for the story. That's the game I would choose for you to play.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I've got BioShock in my honorable mentions because I absolutely love this game, especially the first one. I vividly remember seeing what I always remember when I think about BioShock is the first one when you just the first scene where you get in the plane, you would crash in the water, and the way the water looked the first time on an Xbox 360, the way that those graphics looked were phenomenal. So like the graphics were all there. The gameplay was super fun, but the story was what made this thing stand out. The story is fantastic. I don't even want to spoil it if anybody hasn't, but go get the remastered. Get all of them for $50. It's totally worth buying and playing through all of them. I would highly recommend it.
Yes, yes.
The next one on my list was, of course, Stardew Valley. Oh, one of the greatest games of all time, instantly, and for a wide variety of reasons. I mean, I was gonna put Harvest Moon as one of my top seven because I love Harvest Moon. I love those kind of games where you build this little civilization area. Um, Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley was inspired by Harvest Moon. So and it's one guy who created it. If you go into the story behind the guy who created this game, he's still the one putting out all the DLC. He's pretty much the only guy that's involved in the project. He did all the music himself, all the animation himself, all the everything, every single detail about this game. He did everything himself. So it's really cool. Everything that was like in Harvest Moon that you wish you could have done back in the day for those older games that were on PlayStation and GameCube, the things that you always wanted to do in those games, you can do in Stardew Valley, and it's amazing the amount of time and hours I've spent on this game in the last few years. I bought it later, probably in the last I don't know 2 years. I bought it, and I absolutely love this game. I'd say it's easily in my top seven, just because of the amount of time I've spent on it. But like I said, I would have put Harvest Moon if this game wasn't released. Harvest Moon would be in my top 7 because I like those kind of games. But they're deep and surprisingly deep for a game that looks like a cartoon.
Especially for a one man army who made that game. Like everything you see playing that game, that is all him, which that's crazy to me. And that the cool thing is that like I think on Reddit too, like they made a subreddit for the game, and there's people like, oh my god, this is great and all, but what if you can do this and that? And he was like, okay, maybe I'll try doing that, and there's an update for it, and he was like, oh my god, he listened, things like that. But I'm pretty sure he's done doing the update. I think he like gave it to like someone else to like be like, okay, you can handle the operation while I float my money. I'll lay on my money.
Yeah, I think it's not as bad as what Minecraft did with Notch. And I don't know if you know the background of that one. We can go through that later when I go through my honorable mentions. But I believe he's still heavily involved in the production because they're pumping out updates. There should be one before the end of the year, actually, a big update, fishing update. He runs his own Twitter and does all sorts of things, all sorts of like questionnaires on what the players want to see, and he decides what the updates are going to be based off of what players are choosing and those who vote on his Twitter. So it's really cool. I love that game. It's a ton of fun, and now that they have multiplayer, it just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, yeah. Then you actually gave me it as a gift, so I remember. I mean, I had it on my Switch too for a while because you're kind of you. I remember you're like, oh my god, buy it on your Switch because you're gonna fall in love with it. And I remember playing it for like straight for like weeks, playing that game. And then when they came on to Xbox, then multiplayer just opened up, and oh my god, I know you're just going crazy, like, oh my god, you're already like level 7 like fish. I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, you won't even get to that level till like year 3 or 4. I'm like, what? So yeah, I was gonna say there's like I know what he's talking about when he said, because I remember you had Harvest Moon when you had GameCube, and I just remember you like being like, oh my god, dude, check this out, like I'm growing my plants, I'm gonna milk my cows, and I'm just looking at it like, all right, dude.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. There's something relaxing about a game that's all. I mean, what I like about it is, number one, it is a fun game, but you have this sense of time management. And as being an accountant, you're always like worried about time. Time management's always big. So like if I can get into a game that's fun, but I still get to do the thing I love, like my day to day, I mean I could play it all day long. So it's great. It's all about time management. It's awesome.
Yep. All right. So after and now my number 3 on the list is the Red Dead Redemption series. Not the pre Red Dead, but Redemption 1 and 2, because those games were amazing. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it yet. But these 2 games were amazing on the Xbox 360, and I think they ported over to the Xbox One, and that game still holds up like graphically. After I know it was like 2012, 2010, Red Dead came out, and it still looks good. Even like,
yeah, I mean, I got it. I actually got Red Dead 1 on the. I love these games too. I mean, they're so good. Red Dead 1 I have on the PS3, and then I went switched to Xbox One once that released, and I had to get Red Dead 2. And that game, the story of it is, again, kind of going to the same thing BioShock did. The story is awesome. I mean, it's just a good story. I've never felt in the last 15 years of playing games like religiously, I've never actually cared about a character more than I care about Arthur Morgan or John Marston.
yeah,
More so Arthur Morgan because I think the story is more compelling in the second one, but I think the second one makes the first one even better. It complements it. It doesn't, shit on it. Take a lesson on that. Last of Us 2. But it's great. And on top of that, the graphical jump from 1 to 2 is so ridiculous. It's insane. It's the best looking game that's out today. I would still say it's the best looking game out today. I can't think of another game that looks better than that. I've watched trailers for everything. I mean, the top games, the new Call of Duty games they don't look as good as this. There's nothing that looks like Red Dead 2 specifically. It's phenomenal. I wish the online was a little bit better, but we'll get there. I still think just for the price of single player, it's totally worth it.
Yeah,
So
and there's
give us
like
Undead. Just give us Undead Nightmare for Red Dead 2. That's all we have.
that'd be awesome if they had that if that ever happened. That'd be great. Well, another thing is like Red Dead was that like I never got really bored with either game because kind of like going from Red Dead 1 because like if you did like challenges or whatever you get rewarded with like different outfits for John in the first one. But in like then 2 all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, how about you can just go to a tailor and buy whatever you want. And it was just like so much like Red Dead 2 had so much detail. Like can't believe like it ran on like Xbox like I have the like the launch of Xbox One. Like that's the first one. And that still runs as good. I just couldn't believe like that console like even like ran that game so well. And just like going from like I remember when Red Dead 2 like was announced, everyone's all like, we're not playing John. Like, who's Arthur? Like, I don't want to play as Arthur. I don't want to play as Arthur. I want to play as John. And then little did we know, we're like, oh man, I was wrong. Like, it's so cool like how like Rockstar like I know they're known for like their GTA games and all, but like they know how to make a very good narrative game, especially like in the West. Like no one touches the West. Like when's the last Western game you ever heard of besides like Red Dead? Maybe one game. It's called G.O.A.T. And it was like that was like one of those average looking games, but it was still good. I remember playing that, but yeah, name a Western game that hasn't been like up there with Red Dead.
There hasn't been. I don't know of a other Western game. I mean, you got Red Dead Revolver, which is like the predecessor to Red Dead Redemption, but that one's that's a garbage game. It's crazy what they were able to accomplish with Red Dead 2 and specifically, and just the story is so compelling. It's great. Like I said, there's not been a game that I can remember that I've actually cared about a character so much. It's wild. It is like it's like playing a movie. It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely feels like when you're playing, you're like in a cinema where you're controlling everything. So that's like one of the good things that I appreciate a lot from that game. It's very if you haven't played it yet, fucking play it. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I don't. Even if you're like a multiplayer guy only, this game is totally worth the $50 or $60 price tag. I mean,
Red Dead has multiplayer.
Any sort of entertainment, if you like any sort of entertainment, you're gonna enjoy this game. It is awesome.
Yes,
it's awesome. Just soak it all in. Take a couple weeks and play the game.
Awesome. Don't take your time with it. I will say that. Just if you like story-driven games, like then play the missions and all. But like, just take your time, explore everything. Because there's like, I think like my third playthrough, I remember playing it. There was like other crap in there. I was like, holy shit! I did not like experience like this part of the world. Like, there's so much hidden stuff in there. Like, I was like, I can't believe like I played almost the entire map, and there's still stuff in there like I have not seen with my own eyes when I was playing. I was like, oh my god, there's so much stuff in this game. It's
crazy.
Like
I haven't even been to Mexico in the single player game.
Yeah.
I've been in multiplayer, but not single player. I know there's more stuff after in the ending of it. I won't spoil it for anybody that hasn't played it, but yeah, it's just a great game all around. Well, that was my number 3 too. So I guess I'll go on to my fourth. And I can't believe when we decided to go with this topic, I cannot believe this game was not on yours, but it was on mine. And that is Resident Evil 4. The GameCube days. I don't know how this isn't in your top 7 because we used to play. I mean, you used to play this on the PS. Or you used to
I played on GameCube.
I never had this game. I never had this game until recently. Like I bought the remaster for Xbox One, and I know and love this game from watching you play this game. I didn't even play it when I was a kid. Such a great game. Again, and I think this game isn't really story driven. Like it's got a decent story and you kind of follow it, but the thing that makes it awesome is the gameplay and just it is the perfect blend of horror and light action.
Yeah.
The first setup scene, and this is not a spoiler, it's a 10-year-old game at this point or more. When you go into the village and the guy revs the chainsaw for the first time.
Ugh.
I mean, that's amazing. And then you go to when you're in the castle and there's just these horror elements that are out of this world, like when the dogs are there, around the castle. It's so good. It's still freaky. I mean, I play it every once in a while on my Xbox and just soak it in. It's such a good game. It's timeless. In my mind, looking back at all the Resident Evil games that I've played, I haven't played 7. But I would say from what I've seen of 7, this is still the best Resident Evil game that's out there. And I've almost played all of them.
Yeah, no, I know. Now that you mentioned it, I'm kind of like, oh my god, I cannot believe I completely skipped on Resident Evil 4. I'm like, dude, I remember we went through Mercenaries mode. I remember we did everything 100%. I even beat it on the professional mode and unlocked everything on that game. And I'm just like, oh my god, I remember putting so many hours in that game because that game was so addicting because of the gameplay. Because I didn't play any of the original like Resident Evil, 0, 1, 2, and 3, because they were all like the camera was like in a certain spot, then you moved around, and then they did like this one was different because it was over the shoulder. I think that's that after that whole like switch and everything, it just made the game like way better. So you see like a army of villagers coming at you, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, it made Resident Evil into like an open world game where the camera wasn't fixed anymore. I mean, I played Resident Evil 0 and maybe 2, but I mean, this is just on a whole other on a whole other level. The leap from 0 to, because I think 0 was the one before this. It's miles above it. It is such a jump, and it's still great to play. I mean, it's great. Like you said, like I said earlier, I barely played this when I was a kid. I just watched you play it, and I mean, I had to buy it when I had the chance to buy the remaster because I had to play through. I had never played it through myself before. It's always been either watching a playthrough or watching you play through, like in person, like when we were kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great game. I cannot believe it's not on your list.
I know. Now I feel hurt. I feel like I'm a fraud. um. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And another thing is too, like, remember that game is that they kind of did like the whole QuickTime button thing too. So I remember, I think you played it. I remember there was one stick because I remember laughing my ass off. Remember the Leon was trying to run away from the rock, and then after when he's trying to like get out the way. And I remember you tapping A so fast, and then you get hit. Like you had to go through like 3 or 4 times. You're like fuck this game. Like I hate this section of the goddamn game. I remember.
Yeah, I remember that part.
Those are like funny moments. I remember playing that game. Those are Resident Evil 7. And they got the whole Skyrim treatment. So like that was on GameCube. Then it went to PS2. Then Xbox. Then Xbox One. Then PS3, 4, and 5. So got the whole Skyrim treatment. And then my next list, this is the game that got me into RPGs, was Final Fantasy X. And I know a lot of people are like, what? You didn't play number 7? Well, I didn't have a PS1. I was broke. I was poor. So I skipped the whole generation, so went straight to PS2. And that's when Final Fantasy X, that's when I got into the whole turn-based RPG gameplay. That was my first time experience in a Final Fantasy game, and I don't care what anyone says, that's my Final Fantasy, my GOAT game. If I had to pick a number, I'd pick 10. I haven't played 7, didn't play any of the games, but I did play 12. 12 was different. Just the style of gameplay. It wasn't time based, and the characters were didn't care for them besides like one. And then fast forward to 15. 15 was more action than more of like RPG, because 15 was more of you hold down the B or a circle button. That's all you had to do for battles. And I'm like, wow, okay. Wasn't really, great. And the story was all over the place too, so I don't know. I think after 10, after when they hit the 10, I think that was like their high point. Then it kind of started to like go down a little bit. So yeah, number 10 is because the characters were great. They were all different. Orin was a badass. Waka was Waka. Lulu was a bitch, but she was cool at the same time. And then the meme that that became huge for the game was the main character's laugh. When he was trying to Yuna was trying to force him to laugh, and he's just like ah. Like that's whoever like if you see someone streaming it on Twitch and that's part of that game shows up on there, you'll see so many emotes on there on the chat with the guy's emote face on there. Just here it comes. Then you know yeah, Final Fantasy X. One of my favorite games. That's what got me into RPG games and exploring other games like that too. Trying to think what other game too. But yeah, no, that's pretty much it, really. Yes, Final Fantasy X. That's my number 4.
Not a bad game. It's all right. My next game is the grandfather of all first-person shooter games. One of the greatest games of all time for the N64. You can't make a top games of all time list without having this on there somewhere, and that is by far the great and always cherished and remembered GoldenEye 007 for the N64. This game is phenomenal. This is the first game that ever really had PvP. I mean, it's the first game that really ever had PvP in a 3D setting with guns. I can't think of another game that was like this. It is amazing. The maps on it for the single player campaign are still pretty awesome for its time. I mean, it's great. For its time, the graphics are great. I don't know what to say. I mean, I've spent so many hours playing this game when I was a kid, just getting destroyed. I hate Odd Job. It's just so good. They don't make 007 games like they used to. And there's other 007 games for that matter that are great too. Like Nightfire, the multiplayer Nightfire was fantastic too for the GameCube. And then there was another one for the GameCube, but that was in third person. That was totally different. I really like that game
with the Pierce Brosnan one.
Yeah, and that was.
I remember watching you playing that game a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I was amazing at it because there was and that particular one. I can't remember. It's like It's not Live and Let Die.
It was like All or Nothing or something like that.
All or Nothing. I just remember playing like the simulation version of the game where you basically are shooting like not real NPCs. Well,
yeah,
obviously not real NPCs. And I would just headshot. I just had it so that I could headshot them every time, and I was just so good at it. It'd be like it was ridiculous. That game was great. But yeah, I mean, GoldenEye is you gotta like pay homage to the past when you're thinking about this. Just like when I say Star Wars, you don't have Lord of the Rings without Star Wars. You don't have Gears of War. You don't have Call of Duty. You don't have any of these games without GoldenEye. Kind of blazing the trail. It's a great game all around. And it honestly did justice to the movie too. You look at games that are made out of movies. There ain't a lot of games that are good that are made out of the movies. They're usually just something they throw up on the shelf real quick to get some extra bucks.
Yep.
This game actually does some justice to the movie. So it's great.
Yep. When you mentioned GoldenEye, I never played it like how you played it, but I remember we had nights where we played it, on and off. But like I didn't own the game because of all the games that were M rated, that was the one game I couldn't play. when I had the N64, I was like, that's weird. But yeah, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, GoldenEye will always be like the GOAT, or like the legends of all legends. It's like if it weren't for this game, none of other games wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. They might have happened, but it's just you gotta acknowledge the fact that GoldenEye was the first to do it. Just like Command and Conquer was the first really to do an RTS game real well. And that's why it's got to be on my top. I played it a lot. The brothers and we used to play this game all the time. I mean, it's just there was probably the game we played the most. Other than, well, we probably played Mario Kart more than this, but those two N64 games are the games we played all the time.
Yeah.
It's great. Big heads paintball mode.
All right. And then number 5 on my list, I would be the God of War 1 and 2, but number 2 I remember playing religiously. So God of War was I think that was a PS2 days. I think that was winding down to the end of the PS2 because I remember people were going back and forth like, oh, I'm surprised this came out on the PS3, but they did it for the PS2 before they made the third one for number 3. And yeah, I would say God of War, that was a great game. That's another thing too. Like when God of War hit the shelf, like they introduced me to more like um the the Greek gods and everything. Like when I remember there was like an English subject we were talking about Greek gods. I'm like, I already know these because I killed them in God of War 1 and 2. But yeah, I think that's when they introduced the whole pushing the pushing the buttons on screen. I can't forget what they're called.
They're like quick time
Yeah,
actions.
yeah, quick times.
Whatever.
I think that was one of the few games that introduced quick time events on screen while you're playing a boss. And just just remember like graphics like back then, like on PS2 days, like seeing like that gore and brutality, like they were like, holy shit, like this is fucking amazing. And I think that's then like if you're like pissed off like one day, say if you get home from school or whatever, you could just like beat the shit out of like a centaur or something. Like those were great. Like I remember, like I was like if you were ever upset, and then there's like a mode to where like you did like a King of the Hill type thing. There was like levels of Hades or something like that, and you just go through waves of enemies and see how high you get. Like that was fun, and just unlocking like different costumes for Kratos and everything. Like the game was brutal. I think that's why I love it because it was so brutal, and the combos, the fighting system, and everything was just great. Even the story was good too. Like I think number 2 was like even better than number 1, even though number 1 was oh I killed my wife, I want revenge type thing, and then number 2 was kind of like I want revenge or I want revenge on the gods because they betrayed me, but it kind of goes a little further than that. But yeah, God of War. I didn't play God of War 3. I didn't play the new current God of War because don't have PS4. But hopefully the next gen, if there's PS5s around in a month or
You
two.
played God of War 3.
I didn't remember beating it.
That's when you play. That's when you kill Zeus at the end.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Maybe I forgot.
Yeah, so it's funny because this is one of those situations again, like Resident Evil. Unlike Resident Evil, where I ended up playing it, this was actually going to be in my top 7, and I've never played the game before. I've only watched you play it. I love this game. It's the story is great. Like you said, it's brutal. The combat is ridiculously brutal for its time. It's nothing now, but I mean, I'm sure the new one is great too. I haven't watched really any gameplay on the new one. It's one of those things that if I had a PS5, I'd get it, or a PS4, I'd get it in a heartbeat. I actually considered getting a PS4 just for this game. But yeah, it's an all around great game. The story's phenomenal. The one thing that you didn't touch on that I would say makes this game a step above a lot of other games is the soundtrack.
Oh my god, yeah.
The music in this game is awesome. I mean, I could play it in the background while I'm doing something on the computer, and I could jam to it for sure. But yeah, it's crazy a game like this that, like I said, I've never actually really. I mean, I might have picked up the controller a few times when I was at your place, but this is one of those games that to me it's definitely gonna be in the top 10 games of all time, or 10 series of all
Mhm.
time. And I haven't even played it. I just witnessed the story and everything. So great choice.
Yes. Yeah, cuz yeah, when you mentioned music, I was like, dude, I remember even like during the cutscenes of when like oh there's a boss happening, then like the orchestras, the strings, and just in your back then we didn't have headphones yet playing these type of games. It was just on the TV, but you could still like holy shit, like it's going to be a massive fight. Like those were great. Like you can hear Kratos, dun, 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 even like the drums, dun, 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 dun. Like that makes you feel like such a badass. Like too, it's like like game like yeah, those games before they did the whole reboot on the new God of War. I like I said, we both have not played the new version of God of War, but I'm pretty sure it's fantastic. Like everyone's hearing about, so we'll have to come back to God of War eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to play it. Like you said, I haven't played it either. I would love to play it. Everything that I've seen on it looks great. It's almost more open world, more so than the other ones. The other one's a little bit more linear, I would say, but yeah, it looks great, and it looks like it's even a better story driven game than the original ones. And I think the originals are great because I know, got to kill the gods. They betray you.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just you feel like a badass when you play this game.
yeah.
It's awesome.
Cool. All right, then you're next.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the next one. You can kind of go into your next one too while we do it because they're related games.
Yeah, yep, they
Um,
are.
so my next one is number 6 here. It's uh, again, you got to go back to the classics. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is amazing game. I've never played it when I had an N64. It's another game that I always wanted to play. Never had the opportunity to play it. And then the Wii came out, and with the Wii came the online store. It was the first time you really could buy games online. It was like the advent of buying games digitally. And I bought this game digitally and played it on the Wii. And my God, I feel betrayed that I never had this on an N64 because if I would have played this when I was playing GoldenEye and Mario Kart, now this game would have blew me away. I don't even know if I would have been able to get past the Water Temple. Probably not, but it's great. It's still one of the most challenging puzzle games of all time, I would say, from my perspective. You look at these Assassin's Creed games, and I rag on them quite a bit now because they're kind of garbage. But there is no puzzle element to it. Like the Prince of Persia games is a good example. Like the Assassin's Creed games came from the Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia, there was a lot of puzzle elements to it. Like you got to figure these things out. Assassin's Creed, there's maybe one in the entire game. Legend of Zelda, the entire game is puzzles. Like it all is puzzles. It's not very. I mean, there's combat, but it's not. It's kind of like the backdrop. The main thing is these temples you got to get past,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just great. It's great for its time. The graphics are stellar. You don't really care. I mean, you don't really care about the story. I mean, you got to save the princess, right? It's just a pretty cliche story, but it is one of those things that started the cliche. Like I don't think the cliche of saving the princess doesn't exist without Mario and Link saving Zelda and Peach.
Yeah.
So
Well, the other thing is too, like when it had like the Ocarina of Time is that I like the thing where you're a kid but you have to travel 7 years into the future and you're an adult. So that kind of like flipped the whole, like they had their own style of equipment and everything. So like that kind of like added more um stuff into the game too. And like the other thing is too is like okay, it's actually being like adult Link and like you meet people from your past and you're like, where the hell were you these 7 years? Like, just fucked up, man.
yeah, like it was an ingenious way for the time to take a game that you had limited space with and basically double the amount of play space you had inside the game because you were going back in time and you just changed a few things here and there and you basically doubled the size of the game doing it that way. It was genius,
Hmm.
and it's an awesome gameplay element. I mean, the Ocarina is great. I like to play it every once in a while.
They even had the most catchiest like music too, like Sarah's song. Probably the catchiest like soundtrack of that entire game.
Gerudo Valley
Gerudo
is
Valley.
by far the best. There's some dubstep mixes that I still work out to because they're so good.
Like that was great. Even like the Lost Woods theme. They had so much like good music, good soundtrack throughout that entire game. I'm surprised I know they remastered some of it for the Smash versions. They even had like a little like remix of Sarah's song, and yeah, that game, Ocarina of Time. And I was flipping back and forth between Ocarina of Time, but kind of added on to Adam's game. I picked Breath of the Wild, and I think the last like Zelda game I remember playing like in my hands was actually the Ocarina of Time. I didn't play Wind Waker. I didn't play the Twilight Princess.
Great game.
Um, so like all those years, I have not played a Legend of Zelda game. So I had a choice between either picking Odyssey or Breath of the Wild, and I'm pissed at myself. I did not pick Breath of the Wild first, but I picked Odyssey instead. So after I saved up some money, I got Breath of the Wild, and oh my god, dude! I think of all the games on my Switch, Breath of the Wild I think has close to over like 500 hours on that game because that is such. It is so like completely. I mean, someone say it's not completely different, but they took out like all the stuff like you did, like you remember from like Ocarina, like okay, go here, do this, do that. But on this game, like once you're out, like once you step foot into like Hyrule, you're just kind of like, all right, do whatever you want to do. Like they even have you like to where like when you get to all your like the tutorials and everything, you can just go straight to Ganon, like with just 4 hearts or 3 hearts, and just be like, well, good luck trying to save the princess if you want to like go straight to Ganon, or you can like go save the divine beast and they'll help you out and stuff like that. But Breath of the Wild was, man, it was a breath of fresh air. No pun intended. Um, that game had so much different stuff, like so much new things you could do in that game. Like even like I think the greatest thing they added in there was was the Magnus, what it was. That your Sheikah Slate, like there's so much stuff. Even like today, like now, like speedrunners, like they find so much like I wouldn't say game breaking stuff, but like stuff to do. Like you can like for example, like they set off a bomb once they get off a cliff, and then they set the bomb off, and then they fly like on the other side of the map and just like flying like an airplane. Like even like and for a game like that huge and so much detail, like there is not many like game breaking glitches or anything like that. Um, and then even the story too. The story was like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Um, and then like in the other games, they really don't say you're Link, right? Like in Twilight Princess or like Ocarina of Time, you can just name your character, right?
I don't think you name your character at all in Twilight Princess. I don't believe your references Link at all. Your just references like the chosen hero or something like
Yeah,
that.
but like in this one, they actually refer to you as Link, which kind of was like, oh, okay, so we have like a actual like timeline of events that happen in the the Legend of Zelda universe. So and like the whole cooking thing too, like oh my god, cooking never got old. Like you can like um there's so much recipes, so much stuff there. Like and a lot more like RPG stuff too. And like I said, I think I never got bored of that game at all. I think the only thing that sucked about it was the Koroks, because you got to find like 900 something Koroks if you want to 100% the game and all. And that's that's not what I want to do because they're just floating all over the place. So yeah, Breath of the Wild is definitely like the game I put a lot of hours into.
Yeah, going on to the next one. I'll do my last one, and you can go do your last one. We'll go through honorable mentions real quick, but the next one for me is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. To me, it's still the best. I mean, it's not. It's obviously not the best Grand Theft Auto game, right? I think San Andreas is better. I think Grand Theft Auto 5 is better. Even 4, I would say, is better. I wouldn't say that it's a better story, but it's probably a better game. But Vice City, for its time, took 3, which was like an explosion of a game, and it's like that jump between. Yeah, I don't even know. 3 to Vice City was such a jump because three was such a big jump from 2, and then it takes this boxy world and puts it in freaking Miami. I mean, essentially, Vice City is Miami, and you have a cast of characters on a video game that I don't think there is a better cast. Maybe other than this cast, San Andreas might have the better cast
Hmm.
for voice acting. But this was the first game to have these A-list stars. I mean, bringing in I can't remember the guy's name who plays Tommy Vercetti. He is known for all his mob movie and Goodfellas and all that stuff. I mean, he is very well known actor. I'm trying to think of some of the other guys, and there are a couple of other big names in it. The soundtrack in this game is amazing. Uh, some of the improvements they made to combat and targeting, and it's still a jumbled up mess if you go back and do it now, but for its time, it really forwarded the genre ahead. The map, the cars, the music, the colors, the missions, everything about this game is fantastic. I still play it every once in a while. Like, I have it now on my iPhone, and I'll play it on my iPhone every once in a while.
That's
Just
crazy.
a great game. I used to play the hell out of this game back in the day on my brother's PS2. Great game. Great game all around. I mean, you almost have to put the whole GTA series in there, staying in that same vein. The fifth one by far is the best. I mean, it is the best Grand Theft Auto game of all time. But this game, to me, has got to be in that top just because it's, it kind of, again, it was like the foundation of all the Grand Theft Auto games. But yeah, just a great game. I don't know if you played Grand Theft Auto at all when you were a kid. I don't think we ever really played this game much.
I just remember playing a lot of San Andreas, not Vice City as much.
Tommy Vercetti, baby, Tommy Vercetti.
And then my final one, which is kind of a shocker to me because this is the first game that I played in the series would be it is Animal Crossing New Horizons, and could touch on Adam's like Harvest Moon, not Harvest Moon. What's the other one?
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, Stardew Valley. It's nothing like. I mean, it is. They're both are similar, but they're different on games. But Harvest Moon, during this whole like where we're in right now, pandemic, that was a game like all like the Animal Crossing people were like, oh my god, I can't wait for this game to come out. It's gonna be amazing. I was never interested in the game, like in the slightest. Never, not at all. And until finally, the whole how we're in right now, and I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And I think after playing it for like a week, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm addicted because now I can like manage. I can pretty much like terraform my island and make it into whatever I want. And yeah, it's kind of like management, like a management game too, like kind of like your games that you like. But the thing is that what I don't like about it is that it goes by the real time. So like if you're playing like at 8 a.m. the game in the night, or it'll be nighttime in your game that you're playing. That was like the only thing that kind of sucked. But other than that, then it kind of introduced me to the whole the turn up stock exchange. I felt like the Wolf of Wall Street because you're trying to buy low, sell high. Like I remember playing for like the first few weeks of like playing this game was, oh my god, I felt like the Wolf of Wall Street because I'm going on Discords and sites trying to see, okay, who has the highest turnip prices, and people are trying to like, okay, you can enter, but you have to pay like 100,000 to enter into my island. And I was kind of like, fuck this guy, Jew prices. So I don't know, but now like I'm slowly getting back into it now because I haven't touched the game in months, and now I'm getting back into it. Man, and the other thing is too, I think I love playing it. Is I just, if there's no one like online like on my Xbox, like I'll just play it on my Switch and just kick it. Like that's a game just to like wind down, just, have a drink or something, and just create what I want on that island. It's a good game. Hopefully there's free updates they do every few months or something, but they said that the game's going to be longevity is like a 4 or 3 year plan. So I'm hoping, because I know like a lot of people like, oh my god, they took out this stuff in New Leaf and all this other stuff. They should have added this in here and expanded. So to me, it's a great game. I didn't play the other games before it, but and say if you want to have a time just to kick back and just time management, I would say buy Animal Crossing. It's a great game. Great game.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play those games. I just never really had a chance. But yeah, sounds like it's a good time. I got to check it out. That's our list. I don't have anything else on the list other than our honorable mentions. I can go through my. You may just go through my whole honorable mentions real quick.
Yeah, you do yours. You got
one through. I've got 10 of them on here, but some of them we already covered, so I'll just kind of skip them. Number one on the list, and you gotta appreciate this one, is the greatest MMORPG of all time, RuneScape. RuneScape is one of the greatest games of all time, and I'll tell you why. The Grand Exchange. The Grand Exchange is really one of the first times you ever seen an online stock market in a video game, and that's what the Grand Exchange is. So you're just talking about Wolf of Wall Street and how awesome it makes you feel when you're playing Animal Crossing. That's exactly how the Grand Exchange is in RuneScape. It's great. They really screwed things up when they did the evolution of combat and the big updates. I think it was 2012 or 13 when they screwed up a bunch of stuff. They've made a lot of mistakes with the game. The classic version is now released. You can play the classic version like you did back in 2007. Still a great game. I mean, I still play this game probably weekly. I'll jump in and get my stuff. Got my 15-year vet cape now. I just got my second 99 the other day, a couple weeks ago. Working on my 99 fletching, which I'll have probably before the end of the year, which is crazy to think about. I mean, back in the day, I mean, now fletching is a free-to-play skill, by the way.
Oh, is it?
I'm not paying for that. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a. I remember it was a membership skill, but now it's free.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, it's a free-to-play skill. So, they've released a couple new skills that are all member-based, but yeah, it's just a great game. It is. If you can appreciate the grind of life, you can appreciate the grind of RuneScape. So, great game. The next game I would say the next game on my list that's probably the most notorietable. That's not even a word, but one of the biggest games on the list is Minecraft. Also another great game, similar to the vein of like Harvest Moon, some of the other games I mentioned. You have all those elements of building your own thing, but you don't have a story. It's just a complete sandbox. I used to play this game all the time. I used to have servers set up back in 2012 when like the alpha and beta. I bought this game on alpha for like $10 back in the day. And then it went to beta, then animals started getting released, then enemies started getting released, and then all this other stuff got released. The game is so much bigger than it was when I first started playing it. Now, and I haven't played it seriously since probably 2014, maybe. Just a great game all around. You can just get lost in that. I loved back in the day. I mean, we used to get on Skype, CJ and I and a bunch of other buddies of ours. We set up a server. We had a Facebook group with like 20 people on. Everybody would give me $5. I'd run the server and do this. I don't know if you remember if I ever talked to you about me doing this, but I used to run my own server. So I'd hack it and code the server so people could fly. Back in the day when there was no flying in Minecraft, I mean it was just great. It was awesome. I could put my own mods on there. I used to map it out. And, oh man, the amount of time I've spent on this game, just such a great game. The other game I mentioned, Harvest Moon: Wonderful Life. Again, it's very similar to Stardew. The reason why I love it, but it's just like the precursor to Stardew Valley. Now I played like the 4th iteration of Harvest Moon, so it's a little bit different than that PS1 version where it's all top down. But A Wonderful Life was great because it was 3D and the camera wasn't fixed in one spot. Really, really good game. The next one is another game that I never really played. I've only watched you play. Fantastic game, and that is the best in the Metal Gear series, and that is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Again, probably the biggest reason why I would say it's the best is because of its soundtrack. Nothing trumps Snake Eater soundtrack. The combat of it, not even the combat, the stealth part of it, where you had to switch your gear depending on where you were at in the jungle or wherever you were at. Because don't you go into like the desert at one point in that game too? Like you go somewhere else.
You're like in the mountains. You're like in the mountain area. Then you have to like get like desert camo on or something like that.
Yeah, so you change that all up, and that was a thing in combat that really hadn't been tried. Great game all the way around. Another game series, I guess, that I know you didn't get into, but I played the hell out of this game. Was Metroid Prime series, specifically the first one, the first Metroid Prime game. That game was so in depth for its time. Another great, like I said, the GameCube just had so many good single player games, and this is one of them. All 3 of them actually for the GameCube are great. I can't even stress how good it was. It had an element of horror in it, and the cutscenes were great. The graphics were awesome. There was like endless things to do, endless collectibles. It was actually hard to get them. You didn't just pop up in your map and go to coordinate A12 to go get the next tower like in Assassin's Creed. Kind of going in the same vein with Grand Theft Auto 5, and San Andreas. Again, just great games. Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, fantastic. Twilight Princess, another great game. And I know you've played this series before as well, Mass Effect. Never played it until I got a deal on Origin for all of them
Oh my
for like
god.
$20, and I played the hell out of these games for like 6 months and played through all of them nonstop right after the kids were born. Um, it's such a good game. Good story. The characters are compelling. You actually care about people. You don't want people to die when people die. You want people to die when they don't die. It's great. And then
Yeah.
of course the greatest party game of all time, Super Smash Brothers, and specifically Super Smash Brothers Melee. Uh, the greatest fighting game of all time. Fuck Mortal Kombat. Super Smash is better and more brutal than Mortal Kombat. It's a great game.
When you said Mass Effect, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I forgot about Mass Effect. I'm like, oh my god, I am such a fraud.
Yeah, I
um,
was looking at your list, and I know a lot of these games that I've mentioned in honorable mentions could easily be in my top 7, top 10, or whatever. And I know you've played them probably more than I have. And I was reading your list, it's like, oh god, you don't even have these on your honorable mentions, man. What the hell?
I played so much, man. I played so much. Um, so like I know my list is shorter. But it's kind of overlaps with his too. Like when he said Mass Effect, I'm like, oh my god, that's a game that I remember playing like a lot. When like even like the first one, I was kind of like, I don't know what it's about, but then when you started playing more and more into it, because that for a game like that, I think that was like one of the few of the games where your choices overlaps to the second game. Because
Yeah.
I don't think games like that back then they didn't do that before. And so like when all your choices happen in number one, and you're like, oh, did you play the last game? You said yes, and they like put your save file and load it into the new game from number two. And then when I was playing it for Mass Effect 2, I was like, holy shit, they remembered that I did this, and I was like, it blew me away. Like number two was the shit. Like number two was amazing.
Yeah, number 3 wasn't as good. I wasn't as good. I'd say number 2 is definitely the best. But yeah, it was one of the first games to not even just game to game, but where your actions actually had consequences, and your conversations actually could sway the ending. You know, it did end up being a different color at the end of the third game, right?
Yeah,
It can be
totally
green,
different.
blue, or red. But for the most part, it was great. It was a great dynamic. The only other game to do that, which I should have on my honorable mentions, is Fire Emblem.
Oh my god! I can't believe you don't have that on your list.
I
Oh
know
my
I didn't write
god.
it down. That's one of my favorite
Uh,
games. But yeah, you could do that. You could everything you did with your characters in number 1, you could actually bring your save file over for number 2. It never worked though. So like the GameCube memory cards, it never worked for the GameCube. So it always pissed me off. But I could do a whole podcast on Fire Emblem and how great a game that is. But
for my honorable mentions, like Adams was his top seven list. Mine was the Ocarina of Time, and that's what brought the whole open world genre into life from Nintendo. And then for like multiplayer wise, I think would be two games. Modern Warfare 2. That was the era of just trash talk lobbies. Like I will never forget. Like say if like today's lobbies now, that's nothing. I just Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, like all I heard was N word this, N word that, your mom jokes, or any type of insult. Like, oh my dude, like back in those days, that's where boys turn into men during those Modern Warfare 2 lobbies. And even like sometimes too, like I remember my cousin, he was always over all the time. He didn't know how to play, but he's like, give me this mic, I'll talk shit to him, even though he's not playing. He just drags on him for like no reason. I'll fucking kick your ass. And that's where like I met all of like my friends now, like gaming friends. Like without that game, I would have met like my friends from California, Atlanta, and Ohio. Like those games, like those gamer guys that I've been friends with for almost 10 years now, more than 10 years, and we're still hanging out and playing other games too. Like that game. It had so much chaos, so much fun. The maps were great. Like besides one, but other than that, like even though the game was broken, like a lot of OP stuff, like one man army Danger Close. Like those were the broken things. But other than that, like it was chaos fun. That was the one thing I enjoyed so much from it. Um, and then after that, Modern Warfare 2, I'm currently playing right now is Apex Legends. Um, for Modern Warfare 2, those are the same people that made Apex Legends. So, and that is the only battle royale game I'll play. I never played, didn't care for Fortnite, didn't care for any other battle royale. So, Apex Legends is the only battle royale game I play currently. Um, and Spiritfarer, I remember mentioning this in a other podcast before, but it came out like last month. It's still free on Xbox Game Pass. And if you don't have Xbox, I think it's like 20-30 bucks still. I say play it because it's a very like life. It talks about life. I think that's the one strong thing about that game is it's a journey about it's a journey about death and what people go through, and you'll meet people saying like, okay, why am I here? I need to go to the afterlife. Why am I still here? There's a reason why I'm here. I need to like do something before I cross over. Things like that. So that was one of those things like it's still like my top list for like 2020 games if we ever did one. That would be right up there with it. Um, Gears of War, only the first three. I don't care about 4 or 5 because they're ass. 1 through 3, that was basically like a game where you're like a brothers in arms type thing, and even the trailers were great. You know, Mad World
Oh
from
yeah, Gary Jules.
by Gears of War 1. Like the people who were behind that game had so good ideas for trailers and everything like that. And even like number three was my favorite because I remember playing that so much. But even like the story for all three of them were great. I liked the Locust invasion. Humanity is screwed at this point, and overall great game. And and that's where men cried in number 3, when a certain something happened. I remember playing it. Never thought I would witness it with my own eyes, and I just remember just like that hurt. It hurt me, and that was when I remember like Gears of War, like playing throughout throughout all 3 games. Then you got invested in all these characters throughout all 3 games. Then it hits you. You're kind of like, dude, I've been with this guy for years, and now, it's over. And like all of them, the story's over. Everything. It was just great, and I wish they didn't do like a Gears of War 4 and 5. Now they just fucking burying it to the ground like they're doing with Halo. Um, and then touching Adam, he chose Skyrim. I like Fallout. I like Fallout series. I don't know why. I prefer the more future looking open world stuff. I know a lot of people prefer New Vegas. I had not played New Vegas. I got into it in Fallout 4, and I remember just playing it a lot. I remember making like 5 characters, different play styles and everything. One was like melee only, or science, high intelligence, things like that. Like the game was like very fun. Even like the DLC was great too. Um, and then Adam listed Smash on there, and can't forget about Smash. N64, Melee, Ultimate. Then what was the other one? Just the Wii U? Is that what they just called it? Oh yeah, I forgot Brawl. Um, yeah. Then I'm so happy like on the Switch, dude. They brought everyone back. And then
They
and
just
then
announced the Minecraft
and then,
characters
yeah,
yesterday.
then they just announced Minecraft. I was kind of like, really? Like of all characters, Minecraft. But I mean, it's not my character I would pick, but other people like, that love Minecraft like, "Oh my god, like he's in Smash." Now I have a reason like, play it. So that blew me away. I was kind of like, "Holy shit, like Minecraft." I had no idea he had a name. I just thought he was just like a
Yeah, Steve. He's been Steve for 15 years.
I didn't even know he had a name. um so that was pretty cool. That was recently, and that was like yesterday they announced when
Yeah, that was
Minecraft.
yesterday. I watched the announcement. I was like,
I
"Are
just
you
could
freaking kidding me? I need to get a Switch and buy this now because I love Minecraft.
I was
Love Smash.
just
I mean, I haven't played Smash in years, but just a great game.
I was just happy when Banjo was announced. I was like, dude, they finally did it, because I remember I was hoping that Banjo would be in Smash, and they finally did it. I was so happy when they announced that. But passing Smash, the Evil Within, that is the Evil Within. I think it's probably an underrated series. I know it takes heavy influence from RE4, because they still do the over the shoulder thing. But holy shit, that game is so fucking freaky. I'm so glad it went back to the horror ways, or like the horror, um, you know, more focused on that instead of like the action stuff. But yeah, that game is like is a mind fuck. Even like the first one, they did it to where like they cut like a theatrical, like they took off like the bar up top and the bottom below, so you're kind of playing it like more zoomed in on the screen. And yeah, that game is great. I would say if you want to crap your pants and just get spooked, play the Evil Within. It's great. And then my last honorable mention would be GTA San Andreas. I think the other reasons too San Andreas is because of the I kind of like the sim aspect of it. So like if you worked out, you get buff, or you eat, you get fat type of thing. I think that was one of the things I like doing. So and I wish hopefully maybe in future GTA installments they kind of bring it back, because I'm really hoping they do, because I really enjoyed doing that a lot. And then like if you and like another thing is too, I don't think they do this anymore for after San Andreas, but say if you did like if you had Uzis, the more you used it, the more experience you get. Then if you maxed out, then you can dual wield Uzis. So like it was great. Like it was like the more stuff you did do, then your level of progression in that section of whatever you're doing would increase. And I guess that's one of the things I loved about it a lot. And the story too. They had Samuel L. Jackson was in it. Like, get fucking Samuel L. Jackson in it, then it's a great game.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. GTA 5 does some of that stuff. It doesn't let you do like double guns, but the more you drive, the better handling you have in your car. It's to do with like flying and boating, and even like each of the weapons have their own level. So like as you go up, and that's how it is in San Andreas too. But if you use the Uzi in GTA 5, you get a better level, and your aim is a little bit better. The only problem is you also have 3 characters, so you have to do all that with all 3 characters. So
Yeah.
that's the only downside to that. But yeah, I love San Andreas. I couldn't sing its praises more. It's still a great game. The cool, unique part of that, which is different than I think every other San Andreas game, is how you have 3 different cities, and
Oh
each
my
city is
god, it
totally
was.
different. I mean, it's totally different. When they blew up the map, I remember playing it for the first time, and I don't believe you can see the other maps.
Mm-mm.
Like you never knew that was playable, and then all of a sudden they got to get you out of Los Santos, and it's like, what? Now I'm in San Fierro. What's this? Oh my God! Now I've got an airstrip in Los Venturas. What in the heck is going on?
Yeah.
It's Bigfoot. What the heck is going on? Great game. Great game.
And then they added a little bit of that's little section of Liberty City. And I was kind of like, yo, we're back in Liberty City. Like,
Yeah, don't you go to like Luigi's?
yeah,
Or
you go
something?
yeah, you go to Luigi's.
See, and then you have that, and then the other aspect about that game, and this is not in any other GTA, and I don't think it would fit with the last 2 that came out, but it is one of the best dynamics of San Andreas, is the gang war
Oh my
situation.
god, yeah,
I
Gang Wars was
love
great.
that. I mean, it was one of the coolest parts about that game. They've kind of have it in GTA 5, but it's not anywhere near like where you actually have zones. Like there are certain zones in GTA 5 where you go in and you can fight the gang that's there, but that doesn't mean you take over that gang and now your gang is there and can help
Yeah.
you if you get the cops on you. So I don't know.
I
It's such a
completely
good
forgot
game.
about Gang Wars, dude. I remember like Grove Street was just like was like just highlighted green, and everywhere else was like purple and yellow. And then once you started playing, you're like, all right, this is my city. I'm taking it back. Yeah.
That was great. It was a great game.
Oh, those were, like I said, those were the golden years. Those were the golden years during our PS2 and Xbox era. Like these kids nowadays, I feel bad for them. But yeah, that's our whole list, and I'm glad we had a little spread of different genres we were talking about too. So it's not like we're in favor of one thing, you know, like we're all first person shooters. Like no, we like games that I like. Me personally, I like story driven games. And what did EA say? No one's gonna buy a single player games. Bullshit. I'd still buy them because that's
Yeah,
what
I
sells.
mean, ultimately, I would say my best games on this list are the story-driven games. I love an RT, like a simulation game, where you're either building something or you have to take your army and take out another army. Those kind of games too. But the best games on my list are by far the story-driven games, or the games that really forwarded the whole genre, whether it be GoldenEye for first-person shooters or Command and Conquer for the RTS genre. I like those, looking at those games and seeing basically how they forwarded the entire genre of those type of games. So
Mm-hmm.
those are awesome.
Yeah. So I guess that'll wrap it up right here. So thank you all for stopping by, listening to our list of very very good quality video games over the years from the 90s to now. Even though if you guys are the younger audience, you won't know what the hell we're talking about. um, but next week's episode, it's gonna be great. I know Adam's waiting for the last episode. I have to play catch up because I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for the whole season to drop. So I'm gonna start watching it, and then we're gonna like digest what the hell we watched and see what's gonna happen for the show. So other than that, we're gonna go into our after hours. We will be here, maybe, probably a little. I don't know if we do 8 o'clock or sooner, but we've usually been doing it for about 8 o'clock now. But we'll let y'all know. So that's it for the podcast. We're gonna switch over to after hours, and we'll catch y'all next time.